It was December 23, 1944, and General Hermann Balck was about to sit down for dinner. He was leading a desperate battle against the Allies in France, trying to stall the relentless advance. Balck wasn't just any commander. On the brutal Eastern Front against the Soviets, he'd gained a reputation for being aggressive, resourceful, and brilliant with tanks. Then, everything changed. News arrived. Balck was fired. It wasn't because of a battlefield failure. No. This was personal. He'd crossed swords with one of the most powerful and dangerous figures in Nazi Germany, Heinrich Himmler, leader of the chilling SS. It seemed like Balck's career as a commander was over, but then barely 12 hours later came a strange twist. Balck got a new assignment, one that seemed like a desperate gamble or a cruel trap. He was ordered to Hungary on the Eastern Front to take charge of a unit barely clinging to survival. Suddenly, this disgraced general was thrown into a life-or-death situation. But why was he sent there? Was it a chance to prove himself again, or a way to get rid of him for good? Born in 1893 in Danzig, Frankfurt, he inherited a legacy most boys only dream of, a family with a deep military tradition. His father, William Balck, was a respected senior officer in Germany's Imperial Army. Balck's path was almost predetermined. In April 1913, young Hermann entered the Hanoverian Rifle Battalion 10 in Goslar as a cadet. A year later, he was ready to train other young men at the Hanoverian Military College, but fate had bigger plans. The outbreak of World War I in August 1914 threw Balck straight into the fire. This wasn't desk work. Balck was a mountain infantry officer, his unit spearheading the daring Schlieffen plan attack and the brutal crossing at Sedan, France. The war raged on, and Balck seemingly couldn't be stopped. He bounced across fronts, Western, Eastern, Italian, even the Balkans, always in the thick of the fight. 3 years as a company commander forged him, and he ended the war leading a machine gun company. He wasn't just tough, he was audacious. Think leading a patrol behind Russian lines for weeks. Balck's bravery earned him the Iron Cross First Class, and he was even nominated for Prussia's highest military honor, the Pour le Mérite, in October 1918. Sadly, the war ended before his citation was finalized. The war was lost, but Balck's career was far from over. He was one of the select few chosen to continue serving in Germany's scaled-down military, the Reichswehr. In 1922, he joined the 18th Cavalry Regiment and stayed for a staggering 12 years. Balck was no armchair general. He rejected the German general staff, a typical stepping stone to high rank. Twice. This guy wanted to be where the action was, leading troops from the front line. When World War II erupted in 1913, Hermann Balck had already lived a soldier's lifetime. He wasn't some staff officer pushing papers. Balck was in the thick of organizing and re-equipping Germany's growing tank forces, the dreaded Panzers. That October, he was given his own mechanized regiment in the 1st Panzer Division. These weren't rusty old tanks. This was the cutting edge of Germany's military might. France, 1940, Balck's regiment was unleashed, part of the lightning-fast Panzer drive led by General Guderian. His men spearheaded the dangerous crossing of the Meuse River, grabbing a foothold against fierce resistance. No time to celebrate, though. The campaign churned on. From winter 1940 into spring 1941, Balck led his Panzer Regiment in the brutal conquest of Greece. Then, back to the 1st Panzer Division, he took command of a whole Panzer Brigade. But Balck's days in the West were numbered. In July 1941, he found himself back in the staff officer life, until May 1942 brought a major career shift. Balck was sent to the Eastern Front, given command of the 11th Panzer Division in Ukraine and Russia. This wasn't a Western Front stroll. The Soviets were fighting for their lives. After the disaster of Stalingrad, the German southern flank was near collapse, but then Balck unleashed his panzer divisions. At the Chir River, his forces obliterated a whole Soviet tank corps and wrecked much of the 5th Tank Army. This relentless defense earned him Germany's highest military honor, the Knight's Cross with oak leaves, swords, and diamonds. One of only 27 officers to receive it during the entire war, Balck was on a roll. He was given Germany's elite division, leading it into action in Zitomir in 1943. A quick jaunt to Italy, commanding the 14th Panzer Corps, then back to the Eastern Front in December 1943 to lead the 48th Panzer Corps. He faced wave after wave of Soviet attacks in 1944, even getting caught up in the Brody Pocket disaster, desperately trying to save trapped German forces. In August 1944, Balck was given command of the 4th Panzer Army in Poland, but his success streak was about to end. In September 1944, Balck faced a new opponent, the Western Allies. Sent west to command Army Group G in France, his task was impossible: hold back the unstoppable General Patton. By late December, he was out of a job, thrown into the reserves. Luckily, his old mentor, Guderian, wasn't about to let him waste away. Balck was sent to command the reformed 6th Army army in Hungary, even leading 2 Hungarian armies in the desperate endgame. His war concluded with surrender to US forces in Austria on May 8, 1945. Budapest was a trap, and he was tasked with leading a rescue mission everyone knew was likely doomed, but a soldier's duty is to fight, however impossible the odds. His problem was fixing a mess. 2 of his armored divisions had been split senselessly, their tanks separated from the bulk of the troops. Clearly, this was someone's meddling from afar, likely Hitler himself. Balck, a practical soldier, ignored the idiotic order and put his forces back together. He didn't have time for armchair generals. Balck wasn't only fighting Soviets, he had to manage the unreliable Hungarian army and navigate the poisonous politics of the SS. Herbert Gill, the SS commander, hated taking orders from a regular army officer like Balck. Operation Conrad, the relief attempt, started on January 1st. At first, things went surprisingly well, catching the Soviets off guard, but Balck knew it wouldn't last. The Soviets would get stronger with every passing day. Sure enough, by January 5th, Balck's forces were stuck. His old friend Guderian managed to secure him some reinforcements, giving him a bit more to work with. Later, another relief effort was launched to help Balck's forces under attack. These were small victories in a losing war. Worse, Hitler started interfering again, trying to pull Gill's troops away to some other pointless scheme. For once, Hitler's instinct was right, Balck would later admit. Inside Budapest, things were going from bad to worse. The Germans were pushed out of half the city, scrambling across the river under constant fire. The bridges were blown, leaving many stranded and helpless. Meanwhile, Balck's rescue forces were making some progress, but at a terrible cost. For every bit of ground gained, he risked his army being cut off from behind. Balck had to choose: charge blindly in like Gill wanted, risking another Stalingrad-scale disaster, or pause and secure his flanks. His choice likely saved many lives, but angered Gill and the SS leadership. As the weeks blurred together, Balck's relief attempts stalled and faltered under overwhelming Soviet force. Yet, Budapest continued its bloody fight, making the relief force seem even more futile. General Hermann Balck, the brilliant tactician, saw his once prominent life fade after the war's end. He became a prisoner of war, held until 1947. Unlike many other German generals, he refused to participate in US Army studies on the war, denying himself a chance to influence the historical narrative. After his release, Balck chose the quiet life, working as a simple depot laborer. It seemed like the world was ready to forget this skilled commander, but a shadow from the past lingered. In 1948, Balck was arrested for murder. Back in 1944, when commanding troops on the Western Front, he had ordered the execution of a drunken artillery commander who'd failed to provide crucial support during a battle. Balck had ordered a summary execution without a proper military trial. He was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 3 years in prison, serving half before being released. Given his incredible battlefield record and skill, why is Hermann Balck not a household military name? Partly, he chose obscurity. He didn't write memoirs or polish his reputation like other German generals, but his wartime actions cast a long shadow, undoubtedly tainting any potential heroic narrative. The story of Hermann Balck is a complex one. A brilliant soldier, a man caught in difficult wartime decisions, and someone who ultimately faded from the spotlight. Was he a misunderstood genius or a capable soldier tarnished by questionable choices? You decide. If you found this story intriguing, let us know in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to our channel for more military history, and don't forget to hit the notification bell.